Now we have understood why Redux Toolkit. Let us now understand what is Redux Toolkit. It is nothing but it is a library for efficient Redux development, and it is a toolset that makes it easier to use Redux for managing state in JavaScript application. Why I am telling JavaScript application? Because Redux is independent library. So Redux Toolkit is nothing but it is the updated version of Redux itself. So we can use Redux in any JavaScript application. That is, it is not only tied to React, we can also use Redux with Angular and Vue.js. And this Redux toolkit simplifies complex tasks, reduces repetitive code, and includes helpful features for setting up and using Redux quickly and efficiently. So basically, it's an all-in-one solution to make Redux faster to code and write less error-free code. And this Redux toolkit is the modern way of writing Redux code, and it's advised by the Redux team to now prefer Redux Toolkit over this classic Redux. That's because Redux Toolkit is an opinionated approach that forces everyone to use best practices that the community has learned over the years. So basically, Redux Toolkit uses all these best practices and places them into this new way of writing Redux. So now, does this mean that everything you have just learned in Redux is just waste of time? Well, not at all. First, without fundamentals of Redux, it's very hard to understand Redux Toolkit because it is built on top of classic Redux. If you don't know how Redux will be working, what is Redux, what are actions, what are action creators, what are reducer, how to dispatch action, then you will not understand Redux toolkit. Everything will be like a magic and you will not understand the program flow. So it is very important. First, you should learn Redux before starting with Redux toolkit. And second, both ways of writing Redux are 100% compatible with each other. So you can actually use classic Redux in one part of your project and Redux Toolkit in another part of your project. You will not be having any issues. It completely depends on your project requirement. If you have already completed the Redux course, then understanding Redux Toolkit will be very simple. So the next question is, what are the advantages of using Redux Toolkit? Well, the biggest advantage is that Redux Toolkit allows us to write a lot less code to achieve the exact same result as we have got using Redux. Because Redux Toolkit hides all the stuff like setting up middleware and developer tool. So out of the box, Redux Toolkit gives us many things, but the three highlights are: first, it allows us to write the code that actually mutate the state inside Reducer. Why? Because behind the scene, Redux Toolkit will be using a library called immer, which will be converting our code back to non-mutating. So like the one that we have been using till now in Redux. But with Redux Toolkit, it will be like as if we are mutating the state object directly. And we have already seen about immer library. And what is the purpose of this library? So behind the scene, Redux Toolkit will be using this library. And in my opinion, this is really the biggest advantage of using Redux Toolkit, because if you have complex state object with nested object and arrays, this can be a game changer in reducing complexity. And second, Redux Toolkit automatically creates action creators from our reducers, and this can be quite helpful as it helps us writing less code. Then finally, Redux Toolkit will automatically set up hunk middleware and developer tool so that we can only focus on writing the code that actually does something in our application. You don't have to set up lot of things when you get started with Redux Toolkit. Everything will be happening behind the scene. I have seen many students having this question, can I continue only with Redux without using Redux Toolkit? The answer is yes, because Redux or Redux Toolkit don't depend on any UI library. Redux can work independently without the need of Redux Toolkit or React. But for you to understand what Redux Toolkit brings to the table, how it works under the hood, and to understand how React Redux work, it is essential that first you understand various concepts in Redux itself. And as I mentioned, both ways of writing the code in Redux is 100% compatible. So you can use Redux in one part of your application and Redux Toolkit in another part of the application. You will not be having any issues. But in my personal opinion, as a beginner, first you should be learning Redux, then get started with React Redux, and then finally start with Redux Toolkit. This will not only help you to get deep understanding of the code you write, but also helps during the interviews, as companies will be having old code bases where Redux exists without Redux Toolkit. So learn both Redux and Redux Toolkit, but choose Redux Toolkit when starting with new projects. So in this course, we will see how to use Redux Toolkit featuring React as our UI library. So now you have an idea. Redux Toolkit library abstract over the setup process and handle the most common use cases, as well as include some useful utilities that will let developer focus more on their application code rather than sitting and working on the complexity of the code.